Understanding earnest money in real estate transactions. Earnest money is a deposit made by a buyer to show their genuine intent to purchase a property. It's essentially a good faith gesture that demonstrates the buyer's commitment and seriousness about following through with the home purchase. Here's an in-depth look at how it works, why it's important, and what you should know about it. The amount varies depending on the market, property, and local customs, but it typically ranges from 1% to 3% of the home's purchase price. In competitive markets, earnest money deposits can be higher, sometimes as much as 5% to 10% to stand out to sellers. Once the buyer and seller sign a purchase agreement, the earnest money is usually deposited into an escrow account, a neutral third-party account managed by an escrow company or real estate broker. The money stays in escrow until the sale is complete, at which point it's typically applied toward the buyer's down payment or closing costs. Shows buyer's commitment. Earnest money helps reassure the seller that the buyer is serious about purchasing the property and isn't likely to back out without cause. Provides seller security. It compensates the seller for taking the property off the market, as the seller may incur costs or miss other opportunities while waiting for the deal to close. Buyer's right to refund. In certain circumstances, the buyer can get their earnest money back if the sale doesn't go through, depending on contingencies in the purchase agreement, for example, financing, inspection, or appraisal contingencies. Seller's right to keep the money. If the buyer backs out of the deal for reasons not covered by contingencies, the seller may be entitled to keep the earnest money as compensation for the lost time and potential expense. Mutual agreement. In cases where the buyer and seller disagree on the refund, the matter may need to be resolved through negotiation, arbitration, or even legal action. Financing contingency. If the buyer cannot secure financing, they may be entitled to a refund if this contingency is included in the contract. Inspection contingency. If the home inspection reveals significant issues that the buyer isn't comfortable with, they may be able to back out with a refund. Appraisal contingency. If the property appraises for less than the purchase price, the buyer can usually renegotiate or back out with a refund. Understand contingencies. Work with your agent to understand the contingencies that can protect your earnest money deposit. Get everything in writing. All terms related to the earnest money should be clearly outlined in the purchase agreement, including conditions for refunds or forfeiture. Use reputable escrow companies. Ensure the earnest money is held in a secure third-party escrow account to prevent any misuse of funds. Earnest money is typically non-refundable if the buyer decides to back out without meeting any contract contingencies or deadlines. This is usually a breach of contract, and the seller may be able to keep the deposit as compensation. Earnest money is a critical part of the home buying process that shows a buyer's commitment. Understanding how it works, how to protect it, and how contingencies affect it is essential for a smooth and secure transaction. For personalized guidance, please reach out. The award-winning Realtor, Syed Firoz, at 470-269-0420 or email sfirozrealestate@gmail.com.